What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight Club channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So with the upcoming launch of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, I can't help but imagine what direction Rocksteady is going to take from now henceforth. This is a very important question because not only are they releasing this live service game, I'm seeing a lot of people, hoping and wishing that they would release other games in, say, the superhero DC universe and so on and so forth. However, it's almost, uncomfortable to talk about this because it's a reality. And that is the fact that Rocksteady is going to be a live service studio that's going to require supporting the Suicide Squad game. Now, we don't know what their internal plans are. We don't know whether they already have teams set aside that are going to be supporting the game after launch so that majority of the team can move into whatever project they want to go ahead and continue with. Or we don't even know if they have perhaps another studio that is on the sidelines just waiting to take over the reins after the launch that's going to pretty much go into full-time support. It could be Warner Brothers Games Montreal. I like Warner Brothers Games Montreal. I like the Gotham Knights game. I would hope that they actually get back into making their own personal video games, taking a lot of the lessons that they've learned from, just marketing, perception, audience, feedback, and so on and so forth, and make their own game. But if this is the case, then I think it's probably a good contingency so that maybe Rocksteady can go ahead and make their own single-player games as time goes on. But you also have to understand that the DNA of Rocksteady is changing and has changed significantly. Stephen Hill and Jamie Walker are no longer at the studio. There are probably some others who have been at the studio for a while who are still there. But that vision and direction, and I would say the nature of their games, what they were able to bring into the titles that they released while they were at the studio, is more than likely no longer going to be there. And every other game that you're going to see from this studio, henceforth, is going to carry the DNA and the personality of those who are in charge of the reins. In fact, if you want an example that seems to make more sense than anything else, maybe look at, say, God of War Ragnarok and God of War 2018. Both games basically made from a technical perspective similarly. Story-wise, possibly, more than likely the similar teams that wrote them. But you could tell that 2018 had something significantly different from Ragnarok. And I don't know exactly what it is, but 2018 had a lot of magic. Maybe it's because we were seeing a remake of a God of War game, or there was a lot of hype behind it. But I remember that there was also a lot of hype behind Ragnarok. It was a very popular release window, but there was just something that Ragnarok could not deliver. And I think this is as a result, partially, not necessarily entirely, of just a different person at the reins. Cory Barlog did not direct the making of God of War Ragnarok, and he basically sat on the sidelines and let somebody else carry the reins. And you could see that the DNA was somewhat different in, just with regard to the character and the way things kind of flowed in that game. And I think you're going to see this with the new Rocksteady. So for those who may be saying Rocksteady needs to do this and do this and do this, you might not necessarily be too keen on the, direction things may go if they were to even return to making this single player games. So if they are, and I'm not saying they shouldn't make it, I'm just saying that this is the reality, once we start seeing things in perspective. So when it comes down to it, when everything is all said and done, what players are probably asking for right now is, valid. But I think what they should be asking for is, how is the studio going to continue to progress through all of this? Now, there are teams that have done this successfully. They've been able to pivot. They've been able to adapt. And one of my favorite, I would say studios now is Ubisoft Massive. They made the Division games, the Division 1 and the Division 2, which are live service games. And these games kind of pushed them, from being a support studio to being a major studio within Ubisoft's pipeline. They used to help make the Far Cry games and the Assassin's Creed DLCs. And, they were doing some really cool stuff. They have some games that they also developed by themselves. But, in the recent time, there's been other Ubisoft studios that have been spearheading Assassin's Creed and so on and so forth. But after the Division, they started to grow, and Ubisoft Massive Ubisoft put the investment into Massive and grew the studio to the point where they could make the Division. Also brought on other studios from around the world to support them to support the division while they went ahead to make the Avatar game. Then they went ahead to make the Star Wars game. And then at the same time, while they were making the Avatar game and talking about it, they were working on a sequel to the division, which they dropped in 2019. And then at first they were going to, pretty much move on. And there was talk that there was not going to be a third division game. But then right as the Star Wars game was about to get to launch, they announced a third division game. In the middle of that, they've released a game on South Park, and just a lot that has come from that studio, both from the live service perspective and the single player perspective. So it is possible that this is able to be supported, but it will take the publisher, a lot of investment to do it and willingness to do it, and maybe even availability of investment, because, you've seen the news. It's not like Warner Brothers is swimming in money. So this is a very interesting time overall. Yes, they can acquire loans, they can secure loans, but they are still adamant to do the one thing that I think will really help the DC brand thrive, which is to pretty much unlock the stinking licensing. Let other studios, let other publishers come in and take licensing and just give you money for it. In fact, if nobody big wants to give you money, find the indies and do profit sharing with them. I think this is the way to go. It's very obvious, isn't it? So at the end of the day, it is just one of those questions that I wanted to go ahead and ask. And I just thought, as a community of gamers, this is a question that is worth asking, because if we don't ask this question now, if we don't embrace this uncomfortable reality, man, it might not be too pleasant if things don't work out in the way that we may be thinking. But if things were to work out, and Rocksteady is like, oh yeah, we have a team supporting the game now, we're working on this beautiful, wonderful, Black Canary game, that will be the best case scenario or something of that nature, if you get what I mean. But that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.